Happy Shiny Puppies, this is Melody Fletcher with Deliberate Receiving, where the law of attraction finally makes some freaking sense. Today's burning question comes from Awesome Dudette, who prefers to remain anonymous, and who wants to know, Melody, does smoking weed alter our vibrations negatively? Can it hinder or stop spiritual growth? I understand it can be negative if someone uses it to avoid emotions, but what if we're already at a high vibration before we smoke and use it to promote a deeper sense of relaxation, or use weed to help meditation? I love the effect marijuana has on me and how relaxed and at peace I feel when I smoke, but I'm worried about the long-term effects it might have on my spiritual health. Well, Awesome Dudette, I think that this is the perfect time to ask this question, because with legalization of marijuana being more and more in the main consciousness and people kind of waking up to the idea that what my neighbor does to raise their consciousness or even just to self-medicate is really none of my business. And so I think more and more people are going to be asking themselves, what are these plants and substances really for, and what do we really believe about them? Now, marijuana for me is a drug, but I don't mean that in a negative way. A drug for me is anything that alters the chemical composition of your body. So under that definition, food is a drug. Food can be used to medicate oneself, food can be used to raise your mood, and food can also be used in a self-destructive way. And all drugs fit that description as far as I'm concerned. So you can use pharmaceuticals in a negative way, or you can use them in a positive way. And the plant teachers, the sacred plant teachers like marijuana, ayahuasca, San Pedro, peyote, the iboga root, Salvia divinorum, mushrooms, any of the divine plant teachers can also be used in a negative and a positive way. The difference is not the substance. What determines the outcome is the person taking the substance. So I think we need to really stop blaming the substance, or also making the substance itself responsible for the result that's gotten out of it. So if you use pharmaceuticals or plant teachers or any kind of drug, food, even exercise can be a drug, in a positive way, good for you. If you use it in a negative way, don't blame the negative results that you got on the substance that you used. Don't try to make that the bad guy. Understand that it was your intention and the way that you used it that caused a negative result. Now, as I said, I consider marijuana to be a sacred plant teacher. And so what's the purpose of a sacred plant teacher? Well, these plants have a certain frequency like everything else does, and they have the ability to open us up to higher frequencies. If we allow that, we still have to face our own limiting beliefs. We still have to face the obstacles that are within us before we can go to higher frequencies, but these plant teachers can help us to do that, as all drugs can, by the way. Now, some substances have lower frequencies, like alcohol, for example, which are going to be really great for you, are going to be a really great tool if you're in a really low vibration. For example, you have a lot of suppressed anger that you're not letting out. Then people who, with that kind of condition, they drink a little bit of alcohol, and the anger comes right out, and they're the angry drunk. What we need to take a look at there is, why is the guy or the girl so angry to begin with? So it's bringing that out, but the person still needs to work with it. And of course, most people don't, so they just continue to stay angry and angry, and their only outlet really is when they drink some alcohol and they let that anger out, and then they're engaging in very self-destructive behavior. If they would then notice how angry they get and understand that that anger needs to come out, they could then use alcohol once, see where their mood is at, and then work with it once they're back in a sober stage, or even work with it in the drunken stage, providing they're not too drunk, which of course most people don't do. Marijuana is much the same. It just has a much higher frequency than alcohol, for example. So what it will do for you is it will connect you with a certain frequency. It's kind of like helping you to find an address. And in that higher frequency, of course, if you have limiting beliefs within you that are blocking you from fully connecting to that higher frequency, they're going to come up. And if they're very strong, if that's very strong resistance, or if you're reaching really far from where you are, then you're going to experience that very likely as fear or paranoia. These are your own demons, your own limiting beliefs that are coming up. Marijuana is not creating them, and there's nothing happening outside of you that has to be scary. But again, you need to take a look at what's being brought up. If you are working with what's coming up within you, then you're using the sacred plant as it's intended, and you can create permanent change in your life. If you're noticing that marijuana makes you feel good, that it's helping to deepen your meditations and it's helping you to connect at a deeper level, then by all means use it that way. If you're going to claim to use it as a spiritual tool, though, then you actually have to work with what's coming up. Don't make any substance, including marijuana, responsible for your spiritual growth, see it as a tool that you're using. From my point of view, there's certainly nothing wrong with using marijuana or any substance as long as you're using it consciously. Again, the difference is made by the practitioner, by the person actually using the substance. That being said, I also don't see anything wrong with using it recreationally, because I think that if you have a problem with using marijuana recreationally, then you should also have a problem with people using alcohol recreationally, or food recreationally, or exercise recreationally, or anything at all that changes their lives, and I really don't think that's anybody's business but your own. So when you're using marijuana recreationally, in other words, you had a bad day and then you smoke a joint because it makes you feel better, if you're doing it consciously, there's very little chance that you're going to have a really negative effect from it. Because again, you're actually noticing it's making you feel good, you're conscious about it, but being conscious about it also means that now you're conscious about what you are escaping from. And that's the point. If you're using it as an escape, do so temporarily, but do not ignore what you're escaping from. That way you're getting the benefit of the marijuana helping you to feel better, but realizing that it's helping you feel better from something that's feeling bad in your life that needs your attention. And then, of course, if you're already in a really high vibration when you're taking marijuana, and if it is still making you feel good, and if it's helping to deepen your meditations, then you can use it in the true divine purpose. You can commune with the spirit, with the very, very intelligent spirit of the plant. And you're going to notice a big difference between using it in its pure form or mixing it with tobacco. And I would recommend it if you mix it with tobacco, you mix it with pure tobacco, not that crap that comes out of cigarettes. That's not tobacco. There's nothing sacred about that anymore. It's just going to be horrible. So get yourself some pure tobacco. The tobacco will ground you, and you will have very different experiences. No less sacred, no less spiritual, but very different experiences. And that's something that you can use to sort of experiment. I've personally used marijuana this way, and I know quite a few people who do. I think that I don't really know anybody who uses alcohol that way. In my experience, the people who raise their vibration higher and higher and higher, they tend to really get away from alcohol because it has this lower frequency. But marijuana can certainly be used in a very spiritual way. I think that the way it was really truly intended to be used once you release enough resistance is that it helps to show you the way to a certain frequency, and then once you know what that feels like, you can achieve that on your own through meditation. So it shows you where it's at. Then once you have felt where that's at, you can find it again, and then you find your way there, and then you can use it again to make the next jump. Now, if you use it that way, obviously you're not going to be using it on a daily basis. If you're using marijuana daily, you're using it in a recreational fashion, at least some of the time. I'm pretty sure of that. Again, nothing wrong with that. Just be clear about how you're using it, and don't be ashamed of using these substances. Obviously, be careful who you talk to about it, and, you know, if you're in a place where it's illegal, don't do it where it's illegal. Go someplace where it is legal, but those places are multiplying at this time. But use it consciously, and I don't think that you're ever going to go wrong with any of these substances. If you like this kind of straightforward, no BS explanation, then go ahead and head over to Deliberate Receiving and pick up my free ebook that totally explains how the law of attraction works. And it's guaranteed, unfortunately, to be totally drug-free.